What is up, Who Dat Nation? Welcome inside another playback edition of the Straight Up Saints podcast. I'm your host, Chris Rosvoglou, and as always, the Straight Up Saints podcast is brought to you by Scott McNair Injury Lawyers. Saints 49ers week 2 didn't go the way us fans wanted it to in terms of the final result. Saints dropped to 0-2, but the one thing that I think stood out and should make fans feel pretty optimistic, not just for week 3, for arguably the rest of the season, depending on how it plays out, was the performance of Spencer Rattler. He was so sharp that even Robert Saleh, the defensive coordinator for the 49ers, was pretty much saying he thinks that Rattler could become a household name and he thinks he's going to develop well. And I think that's about as high, as praise as you can get, especially just 2 weeks into the season. So last week when we did a week 1 film breakdown / playback for this game, when it was Saints Cardinals, we kind of evaluated across the board. We looked at Fuaga, McCoy, Alvin, Kendra Miller, Jawan Johnson, Rattler. We looked at the defense. Today, we're mostly, and by mostly, I mean pretty much, going to focus on Spencer Rattler. Now, there is also a film breakdown that we have here at Booker Media from Jaden that I think is stellar, so I would advise everyone to go check that out. For this one, I'm going to kind of give my commentary on some of the best throws and maybe a couple of miscues here from Rattler from week 2, excuse me. Before we do that, I'm going to start off with this play right here. Going to let it play out, and then we'll go back. I think there's been a lot of talk about the Saints offensive line, specifically Cesar Ruiz. And I'm going to go back to this one yet again. I think this play right here is two things: indicative of the type of player that Spencer Rattler is, but also what the Saints are getting right now from Cesar Ruiz, which is not good. And we didn't put both clips, but there's another rep in this game that looks exactly like this for Ruiz. So he's going to be matched up against Kalia Davis here, number 93 of the Niners. And Ruiz completely loses that matchup off rip to the point where you're Rattler, you want to go through your reads, but you got a defensive lineman that is just mere feet away from making a game-breaking play. So the smart thing to do is step up in the pocket. Rattler does that beautifully, avoids the other edge rushers, and makes this a positive game for the Saints. Unfortunately, for Rattler in this case, the Saints end up having to back it up regardless. And I think that is quite frustrating for this team. But I think the one thing about Rattler that I love on this play is the escapability that he has. Now, moving forward, this is where we get into all of the completions and incompletions that I really want to focus on. This was the biggest blemish on the resume for Rattler week 2. Opening drive has Olave, misses him. I want to go back here, though, and kind of give my thoughts about this play because it's been very, very, I don't want to say controversial, but it's been a big debate, right? You have half of the Saints fan base going, man, Rattler's got to make that throw. And then you got the other half of this fan base going, well, if Olave wants to be the number 1 wide receiver, he's got to come down with the football. Here's where I stand on this. So if you watch in terms of the pocket, you're not going to get a pristine pocket here for Rattler. You're just not. And unfortunately, in this position, I believe it's Dylan Radins there that ends up getting beat. And look, the space is there, though. I think you got to throw Olave open. Unfortunately, Rattler ends up throwing a bit behind him. Now, the ball does hit Olave in the hands, and I think that's where everyone goes, well, if you're supposed to be a top receiver and it hits you in the hands, got to make the play. My counter argument here would be Radins is getting beat. Rattler is throwing. I don't want to say he shouldn't make this throw. He's still got to be able to make this throw, but I think the throw is the problem on this one, not so much Olave. If anything, I think Olave's route is filthy. Look at the separation he creates right about at the 5-yard line. I mean, he's leaving his defender in the dust, literally in the dust. It's over. So all that space right there for Rattler, you got to anticipate Olave's winning that route, which he clearly does by a landslide, and you got to throw him open. And unfortunately, that just didn't happen there. That said, the very next clip we're going to look at is the throw of the game from Spencer Rattler. I would argue it's the throw of the week out of any quarterback. Now, unlike the last play, this is a picture-perfect pocket. Kelvin Banks is holding his ground. Fuaga's winning his matchup against Nick Bosa. McCoy's helping out Radins, obviously, and then McCoy's winning his matchup here. Ruiz, is winning his matchup here. So literally couldn't ask for a better pocket if you're Spencer Rattler. The throw is so great for one main reason. You got Rashid Shaheed being held down here. His right arm is completely restricted. He can't use his right arm. It's being held. And to put it in the one spot where he can even get that left arm kind of extended and get his hand on the football, just a masterful throw. Now, they were going to get the yardage anyway on PI, but that is just a brilliant ball from Rattler. I'm just going to let it play out in full real time, one more chance, but it's just a picture perfect throw and a great catch, obviously, from Shaheed. Now, going to keep it rolling here with Rattler. I talked about this earlier this week. I think he is one of the most fearless throwers in the NFL. And I believe it's plays like this that tell you why. So you got right here an unfortunate situation where Fuaga is going to end up losing his man right there. And you see, I mean, you're going to make this throw. That's fine. Just know you're going to pay the price physically if you're Rattler. And he's okay with it. I mean, he literally gets swallowed up as he's releasing that football. And it's a dime to Brandon Cooks. Great catch, by the way, by Brandon Cooks. Kind of boxes out his defender over the middle of the field. Excellent job by the vet. But that is just, when you're feeling it and you're also not afraid to get hit, as that is the case for Rattler here, I mean, look, when he releases it, he's going to get knocked off his spot. So I think it's a testament to him. I really think it is. Now, this is the same situation right here. So I think Banks, the speed of Huff kind of throws him off here. And Huff kind of bends around the edge very well. So you're going to have pressure on this play. By the way, the Niners are blitzing. And Rattler throws just a beautiful pass where only Juwan Johnson can get it, and that ends up being 6. And that was something we talked about with Rattler last year. Could he handle the blitz? Was he going to be able to do it? And so far this year, he's actually answered the call really well. And I think that in this game against the Niners, every time for the most part that they blitz, I feel like Rattler had the answers to that. And right here, 5-man rush. I would argue that Banks is losing that rep. And it is just a perfect ball. Look where it's placed. And that's good coverage. That's pretty good coverage. You're putting it where only Juwan Johnson can get it again. But this time, Juwan comes down with a great catch. And I just think it's an excellent throw from Rattler. It's an excellent throw against that 49ers blitz. And I really, there were moments in week 2 where he was feeling it. Throws like this, I think, kind of tell the story. So let's keep it moving here for Rattler. This right here is one of those where I think players got to love playing for a guy like that. Got to love playing for a guy like that. So let's rewind ourselves right here. Let this one play out a little bit. Bosa wins that matchup against Banks. I would argue that not his best day, obviously, the rookie from Texas. But, I mean, if you're going to lose a rep against a 49ers player, it's probably going to be against Bosa. Kind of gets him with definitely gets him with that swim move. So Rattler's got to step up. Avoids the pressure, though, from Bosa. Right here, it's already a positive game. You're going to take it. D. Winters has him about done. And actually, a Niners defender knocks D. Winters off his spot. That's what frees up Rattler here. But, man, to keep going and gain another 5 yards out of it, tough running, you know the players respect it. You know the players have to respect it. So, again, I think when you talk about being fearless, it's constantly on display in this 49ers game for Rattler. Let's keep it rolling here. Just another dime. And I talked about it earlier this week. He just had so much confidence in this game. And it was building, man. Just letting it rip. And again, this is not a perfect pocket. Radins is getting beat. But it doesn't matter. When you're feeling it like that, just perfect. So, again, testament to Rattler. Right here is what I hope becomes a staple for this red zone offense. And I'm not saying it needs to be a play like this every time. But the RPO works to perfection. Fred Warner's crashing down here on Alvin. So you don't got to worry about him in the picture. And it's just a one-on-one situation. And when you're going to throw to Vela, you got a 6'4" wide receiver that's able to kind of get the inside leverage on his corner. If you throw a perfect ball, it's going to be a touchdown every single time, as long as your receiver doesn't drop it, which Vela is not dropping this one. Just a dart right there from Rattler. And I love the RPO usage there by the Saints. Yet again, just think more confidence. I just love the way the way he's moving in the pocket is just excellent here too. He's anticipating Kendra Miller. Not that he's going to lose that matchup, but Kendra Miller in pass protection here's got to step up. So he's rolling away. By the way, good job by Kendra Miller. He does his job. I think that's excellent. He deserves praise right there. Rest of the pocket's doing their job. It's clean. Just moving off his spot and throwing a really nice dart to Olave. The connection there's been great. Once again, RPO in the red zone. Clearly, that is something that Kellen Moore has really valued. He valued it in week 2, and it worked twice for them to score a touchdown. So right here, Bosa's crashing down this time. Again, right read. Now it's just moving a little bit out of the picture, throwing a dart to Shaheed, and Shaheed's going to turn around and literally for him, I don't know if there's a DB that's going to be quick enough to knock him off in that 1-yard split that he just has to gain to get in the end zone. So RPOs before, we saw it with Vele on the slant. This time around, you make it a simple pitch and catch. Just a simple pitch and catch here. The ball fake's perfect. She does the rest. So clearly that is something that Kellen Moore is going to value for pretty much the rest of the season. I think it's becoming one of the staples of this offense when you're trying to figure out what their MO is going to be and what they go to in terms of going back to the well one too many times. I think they could do this multiple times. I'd argue here's another play. Doesn't end up working out. It ends up being a Jawan Johnson drop. But it's pretty clear when the Saints want to go to this RPO, it's worked pretty well. And by the way, this is not even one where you're getting the Niners linebackers to crash down completely. Now, Winters and Fred Warner, obviously their eyes are in the backfield to a certain extent. But this throw is coming to the outside. They're not the ones affected by that. Jawan's got to catch the freaking ball, obviously, or else this ends up becoming just a wasted play. But it's very clear. RPOs are here to stay in that Kellen Moore offense, and Rattler's done a great job. There's no doubt about it. Right there, this goes back to earlier, talked about the confidence. I think it's really important that he gets on the same footing with Olave. I'd argue that connection is what can take this Saints offense to the next level. I think that we can make an argument that Chris Olave has, not even an argument, he has the talent to be a really prolific receiver for the Saints. He's gotten over 1,000 yards twice. Simple stuff like this, low risk. I mean, when you're in a situation like this, I think it's low risk for Rattler. He's going to make that throw 9 times out of 10. Also, I love the idea of keeping Olave out of harm's way. Just an easy pitch and catch. So I think those are ones Rattler made with confidence. This is one of the few throws that he missed. And this goes back to what I was mentioning with Olave. That connection's got to be money if this offense is going to take that next step. And this one's between 2 defenders. That is the complete polar opposite of what I mentioned before. So we go back a play earlier, and I love throws like this. I think those are easy pitches and catches for both players. And you're moving the chains effectively. You're not putting your number one receiver in harm's way. Not so sure I love that one. Again, bad ball anyway. Disaster averted, but not so much in terms of being excited about a throw like that. So overall, if we were to just go through it, I think Rattler had 2 sensational throws. Touchdown throw to Jawan Johnson, and then the deep throw to Rashid Shaheed. I think obviously there were some miscues. Throw to Olave that we just mentioned. The opening drive touchdown that could have been, which we could go back to and just go look at that one more time. Not to nitpick. It's just when you have a 3 touchdown, no interception performance, it is your best game as a pro. And then you go watch the film and you look at this play and go, man, it should have been a 4 touchdown performance. I think there is room to grow for him, which I think makes it equally as exciting as it does him having as great of a performance as he did. Because there is the room for improvement. And a throw like this he can make. It's not like he can't make that throw. If he can go out there and on the very next play, make this throw that you're seeing on your screen, there's no doubt that he can make that throw to Olave. So again, I thought you saw a lot of confidence with Rattler in week 2. I thought his toughness was on display. Being fearless in the pocket was clearly there. He handled the blitz very well. Again, was it a perfect performance? No. I mean, a perfect performance, I think, is if he hits that throw to Olave on the opening drive, And all right, maybe the Saints game-winning drive happens, or attempt for a game-winning drive ends up being successful. Now, you can't pin that one completely on him. Huff won his matchup against Fuaga. He had 0 time to throw, lost his footing while moving up in the pocket anyway. So that one's not on him. That's really an offensive line problem and just a masterful call from Robert Saleh. But overall, week 2, looking back at it, I felt great about Rattler's performance when the game ended. And then when you're able to go back and just feel like all those thoughts are kind of validated, it's a good feeling, especially for us Saints fans who are trying to figure out if they have a franchise quarterback. And I don't know if Rattler is that. But what I do know is that he played really well in week 2. And now going into week 3 in Seattle, hostile environment against a defense that is swarming right now. They just had a great performance against the Steelers. I am really interested to see how he handles that challenge. And I'm interested to see how Kellen Moore handles that challenge. I talked about RPOs being a clear staple of this Saints offense. What is Kellen Moore going to have for that Mike McDonald defense that is playing really high-level football right now through 2 weeks? So we'll see what happens. But I think Rattler is showing signs of being a legitimate starter in this league. He's got a great test coming up in week 3 against the Seahawks, and we'll be able to cover it, not just with our halftime live stream. We'll also have the post-game. Also do another playback reaction just like this one. So make sure to subscribe to Boo Crew Media for more, and stay tuned for more content from the Straight Up Saints podcast, the destination for the Who Dat Nation.